Joining us now to discuss, Logan Church is the National Political Director at CatholicVote, and Bill Donahue, President at Catholic League. Welcome to you both. As our correspondent was discussing, media outlets sort of framing how the Pope appeared. You'll see here on CNN and ABC News described as weak and frail. Questions persist as to really how healthy the Pope is right now after spending 5 weeks in the hospital battling that life-threatening illness. Logan, I'd like to start with you, just what it meant to see the Pope appear in public, and what did you make of that appearance?
Yes. Well, first off, I would say this is what Catholics everywhere have been praying for. So it was so great to see him. And honestly, I'm excited to see him getting back on his feet, getting back in his chair. And I'm glad to see that our prayers finally came through.
And Bill Donahue, I'll go to you on this as well. And obviously, you know, it's a joyous time to be able to see anyone recover from something like this that the Pope has went through, and especially at the age of 88 years old. But Bill, there's also a job to it, right? There's a lot of responsibility for the Pope carrying out these responsibilities, doing so after he is still having to recover. Yes, he's not at the hospital, but how can he still continue his duties? Do you expect him to? Is talk of retirement being worded, if you will, behind closed doors? What are your thoughts, Bill?
Well, first of all, the Catholic League wouldn't have any formal policy statement on this, but you've asked me a direct question. And yeah, I mean, let's face it, we did have a cognitively challenged president here recently, and it raised the question, who's running the store? Now we have a physically challenged Pope, and that raises the question, who's running the store? There are important interests involved. And when you have a situation where the person at the top of a major institution, be it the presidency of the United States or the Holy Father here in the Vatican, it raises questions as to what's going to happen if that person is not able to exercise the kind of authority that he's used to. It is rife for all kinds of mischief. And so it does raise the question, let's face it, John Paul II in his waning years was not in good shape. Pope Benedict resigned. And the question has to be on the table for the cardinals to decide, not lay people. But the cardinals have to decide whether or not it's in the best interest of them to consider, some of them perhaps talking to the Pope, whether or not he should resign. But again, that's their call, certainly not the ladies.
Right. Indeed. And Logan, I'll just go back to you about the role that the Pope has in leading the Catholic Church, specifically looking into the next generation of Catholics, right? Reaching out to those younger, faith-filled members of the Church. Are they looking for someone who takes a more active role in everyday appearances?
So I would say this. First off, in today's modern age of euthanasia, I think Pope Francis is a beautiful example of the dignity of aging. And so the Pope's position, it's meant to be for life. That's the standard that's been set in the Catholic Church for the past 266 popes. Out of 266 popes, we've only ever had 2% step down. And some of those steps downs, a lot of them weren't even about health issues. So I would say as a young person in the church, something that we're looking for is an example of what does it mean to live out a Catholic faithful life. And that's exactly what Pope Francis is doing here towards the end of his life at 88 years old.
Yeah, Bill, can we go back, if we can we go back to those headlines that we saw describing from CNN, ABC News, describing the Pope's health here. Pope Francis appears frail as he's discharged. And ABC News, a weak Pope Francis is wielding power. So they're watching it, again, these reporters or these producers, these writers, they're watching it same as us. And we saw the video again of the Pope being brought out there and addressing the public for the very first time after his very lengthy stay at the hospital. And here is that video. So when you see Pope Francis in this moment and waving here, pulling up his left hand there, circular motion of waving, a thumbs up as well. What do you see in this moment? Is there a change in the Pope in your mind, Bill, physically and health-wise?
I don't think there's any question about it. And the prognosis is that he's not going to be fully on his feet for several months, and it will continue to need to receive oxygen. So it does beg the question, how many months will the church go on like this if the Pope does not make the kind of recovery that we hope that he does make? And at that point, then you could have a crisis in the church. because people will make changes when they're not policed. We saw it in the Biden administration, particularly over his last year when he was not able to perform the way he should have. And unfortunately, the situation is very similar, except in a physical sense, in the Vatican.
Yeah. Logan, we'll end with this. This Easter season, it will look different, I guess, for many practicing Catholics who would be looking to the Vatican to lead them through weekly prayer services. Your thoughts on what this will mean for you?
So I would say this, maybe it's not going to look like it often does, but God's plan is here. I think that it's beautiful as we're finalizing Lent, entering into the Easter season, continuing to pray for Pope Francis and his health, and pray for his ability to discern what is best for the church. And I think that's actually a beautiful representation of what we're actually doing during this season as Catholics. So I urge Catholics everywhere to join me in prayer for him as we move through this next transition of the church.
All right. Sweet sentiment there. Logan Church, thank you so much. Bill Donahue, thank you as well.